Welcome to the Starting Over podcast training series. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and in this episode, we're going to be looking at plasticity. Plasticity is a very unique power that really, unfortunately, is not even looked at hardly in HeroClix's design from a player standpoint. It is a very underestimated and underused power. It is one of those like, oh, I happen to have plasticity sort of situations. And so let's go ahead and look at this power and look at how we can use this to our own ability. Plasticity. This character adds 2 to its D6 roll when breaking away. Opposing characters subtract 2 from their D6 roll when breaking away from this character. It used to have like different stuff, like it would only fail on a 1 or something like that. But what we can see with plasticity is it's sort of that middle ground between, hey, I'm stuck, and leap, climb, and phasing teleport, okay? So why is plasticity hard to use, okay? Well, first off, many times we're just focused on hypersonic speed, charge, and running shot. Hypersonic speed, charge, running shot, maybe charge flurry, if we can really get it on, okay? But plasticity doesn't move us into attack. Plasticity doesn't give us an attack option. Plasticity doesn't help us. It feels like it doesn't help us offensively. And since many teams are highly offensive minded, they completely just blow off plasticity, okay? So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us in a very interesting place to play around in the meta. All right. Now, plasticity's major advantage that I see is this. It allows you to lock down non-hypersonic speed, leap, climb, and phasing teleport figures. If you remember when we talked about tie-up pieces in previous podcasts, and if need be, go look at any of the previous podcasts. This is training. There's no problem with doing it. Just pause it, go pick an old episode, definitely about 300-point game. Then listen to that, come back, I'll still be here. Okay? Now, when we're dealing with a tie-up piece, plasticity is extremely necessary. Extremely necessary. Now, I will note this. Yes, you do have pieces that can tie up figures just by being there, but you don't do anything to the breakaway roll. All right, you don't do anything to the breakaway roll, and the breakaway roll is essential to mess with because you want to keep them locked down. You want to make sure that they don't go anywhere. And if your team is highly dependent on range, having 2 to 3 lockdown figures is necessary. Having a figure that you can just throw out there to make sure that their running shot figures can't get a shot off, to make sure that their charge figure can't break away. All these different elements start to become really, really important when you're looking at using charge. Now, not using charge, when using plasticity. Now, I know that some people will still be like, well, Dark Logos, where's my direct benefit to plasticity? I don't see where I would want to use this all the time. And one of the biggest ways I could say, like, hey, why you really want to use it, other than tie-up pieces, is that if you want to have the option to tie up and the option to break away, then this is a good place to be. Now note what I said. If you want the option to tie up and the option to break away. So a lot of people don't really get that. Okay? What do you mean an option to tie up and an option to break away? If you look at it, you only fail on a 1 to break away with plasticity. So you have a pretty much a 1 in 6 chance, literally a 1 in 6 chance of not breaking away, and your opponent has a 1 in 6 chance of breaking away. All right. So if your tie-up piece is like, oh, it can't do anything right now. Or, oh man, my tie-up piece is about to die. I know I can get it back to the medic. Then you want to come back and say, oh, you know what? Come to think about it, since my tie-up piece is, in this situation right now, what I can do is that I can roll for breakaway. Odds are in my favor that I'm able to get away. And that doesn't seem something that pops into the forefront of your mind, because why is that? Oh, because you're mainly using leap climb. You're mainly using phasing. You're not in hypersonic speed. You're not thinking, oh, I have increased odds of breaking away. So what I want you to do is exploit your mobility. You have full range of exploitation to use with that, okay? And don't think that you're stuck like, oh well, I'm just stuck with a bad tie-up piece with plasticity. I really can't do much other than tie up. No, you can do a lot. And where do we see synthesis? We see synthesis in super synthesis, shape change. We see synthesis in scroll team ability. I hate to say it, I'm talking about a scroll. When you come down to it, if plasticity and shape change, really I'm talking about scroll infiltrator from Avengers movie. Plasticity, can't get away. Shape change, you have to get past that roll. Scroll team ability, you have to get past that roll. That is a perfect tie-up piece for 40 points. Another figure that has, plasticity, which is sort of nice if you want to use them in that manner for late game, is Mr. Fantastic from the Galactic Guardians. Okay? So just be mindful of the options that you have. And you have a bunch of options when you come to using, plasticity in a elegant way, unlike me inhaling in that last moment. One of my favorite pieces that utilize the full tie-up mechanic is Ragdoll from Brave and the Bold. And while that figure is very delicate on its dial, having plasticity, having shape change, having super senses, having the trait I'm not the funny kind of clown, when Ragdoll is adjacent to a friendly character named the Parademon, modify both their attack values by +1, and won't let go whenever an opposing character adjacent to Ragdoll is given a move or power action. After action resolve, you may place Ragdoll in a square adjacent to that character. So you have the constant ability to keep tying up figures even if they break away. So I would say this. If you have Ragdoll, play a couple of games with using it. Some other figures that you might want to try. And I'm going to bring these up, and some of these are going to be really old, but they're really cheap for you to get to play around with plasticity. Definitely on the front end. Captain Cold. You have the ability to, trap with barrier using cap or plasticity. And that's Captain Cold from Collateral Damage. You also have the Chameleon from Unleashed. 30 points for shape change and and plasticity, and you can team them up with the scroll, and then you have shape change. Second click gets plasticity, poison, and shape change. So there's some options there for that. Another figure that I really want you to consider, just for team design purposes, is Gotham City it's actually a GCPD from Batman Alpha. And I know a whole lot of people will be like, oh, that sucks, he's not that great. But you have PD ability, and if you need plasticity, you have it. One great figure that I feel is out there that is quite useful is Element Woman from the Superman set, who has plasticity, poison, toughness, and exploit weakness for 67 points, and she's 6 clicks deep. So there are some uses there for her. So anyway, just think about that in your team design. I want you to in this practice game, what I want you to do is set up an opposing force on the other side of the field that is mainly composed of ranged figures. And I want you to make a team that has two plasticity figures on it, on your team, and then figure out a way how you would go from one point to the other utilizing your plasticity figure. Okay. And again, it doesn't have to be plasticity on the first click, but again, if it's on the first click, you can control that interaction. Start thinking about, hey, what can I really use this for against a ranged team? Then I want you to try the same thing against a mixed team of ranged and melee based figures. And then I want you to try it against just melee based figures. And for just testing purposes, you don't necessarily have to roll dice this time. Just sort of play around with, okay, I'm just going to do this. My opponent auto hits or auto misses. How does this go? Now be honest with yourself. Don't be like, my opponent always is auto missing. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, just go ahead and roll out a normal game and just sort of see like, how does this feel? How, what elements do I need on top of this?